Hello and welcome. I'm Mr. Suska, and I'll be your student's sixth grade science teacher this year. First of all, let me just start by saying thank you for spending the time out of your day to get to understand what your student's science class is going to look like this year. But before we do that, let me share a little bit about myself. This will be my first full year at Magnolia Science Academy, but in fact, I had the privilege of student teaching here under our eighth grade science teacher, Mrs. White. It was such a great experience that I'm truly honored to be here as your student's sixth grade science teacher. Now, I've been in education for 5 years now. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Geology and Chemistry and a teaching credential from San Diego State University. One thing I like to share in terms of my background is that I come from an immigrant family. Both my parents moved to the US in their 20s, my mom from Brazil and my dad from Slovakia. And I feel like it's given me a really good perspective on not just teaching, but life as well. Because of that, I try and emphasize diversity as much as I can in this classroom. I understand that our students have cultural knowledge and experiences that they can bring to our science class, and we try and utilize that as much as we can. Now, when I'm not teaching, I try and spend the majority of my time in the ocean or hiking, experiencing the outdoors. But when I'm not doing that, I enjoy reading, gardening, and playing chess. Now, some of us like to ask the question, why take a science class? Let me start by saying that my goal is not to have your student later down the line choose a career in science. That'd be awesome, but the truth is, they already are scientists. We're all born scientists, and as young children, we often ask, I wonder why this is happening, or I wonder what that is. And we investigate and explore our surroundings through experimentation. So, my goal for this class is for students to maintain that curiosity they had as young children. And while we're doing that, gain an understanding and appreciation of the natural world and provide them with the skills and confidence to critically investigate, explain, and problem solve. One quote I like to share is from Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he says, science literacy is the artery through which the solutions of tomorrow's problems flow. And so, through this class, I hope that your students start to become scientifically literate. Because if you are scientifically literate, the world looks different to you. It empowers us to confront the issues that plague our society and make positive contributions that affect people and our planet as well. The curriculum that we use aligns with the next generation science standards, which is three dimensional, which means we're not just teaching your student about the content, but we're teaching them about the science and engineering practices, which are the do part of science, and also the concepts that connect all the different domains of science together. The science content is going to be broken up into 4 units. And you can see on this slide some of the uh, ideas that we'll be covering this year. But you can also notice that the engineering design process is super vital in this class and will be covered throughout all 4 units. And so, what does a science unit look like? Before I get into that, I just want to let you know that our science class is based around student led inquiry, which means that students first develop their own questions that they are curious to learn about. And then we go into these investigations, and then they present what they've learned, and then we reflect on our whole learning process. So, our unit first starts off with a liftoff task, where students are introduced to a phenomenon, kind of the overarching theme of that unit. And this is where we start to develop our own questions. And then as we go into our culminating project, there's various tasks or investigations that align with this overarching theme. And then at the end, students will demonstrate all that they learned, where they will connect ideas and practices from the tasks and investigations to solve a real world problem and to come up with a solution, right? And after all of that, will reflect as a class on our learning process. So since this year is going to start off in a virtual learning environment, it's super important for your student to be well acquainted with Google Classroom. Google Classroom is going to be where they find all their assignments, materials, and feedback. In terms of assignments, I use a numbering system. So all assignments with a number associated with them indicate work that needs to be turned in for a grade. All their reading materials, labs, websites, videos, etc. can also be found in Google Classroom. And I'll also be providing feedback through Google Classroom. So students should look for feedback where we'll talk about things that they did well, things that they need to work on, and things that they need to fix. So with our assignments, I'm more worried about what your student is learning, their learning process, and their quality of work, rather than them just turning something in and giving them busy work. So I'll ask students to fix work, comment on the feedback, and things like that. So I use a graded weighting system. 70% of the grade is going to come from culminating projects, tests, quizzes, and labs that I have them do. Now, 30% of the grade is going to come from asynchronous work and work that they do during their live session in their notebook. Now, in the beginning of the year, I asked that students have a notebook to answer questions during the live session, to take notes and things like that. If they were unable to get a paper notebook, I do offer an online notebook that they can use, and that can be found in Google Classroom. At the end of the units, I'll be checking their notebooks just to make sure that they're contributing and they're active during our live sessions. In terms of checking your student's grade, please check Elluminate. Because work will be going back and forth through Google Classroom, it's not a really good place to get a final grade, right? So please check Elluminate. And then I understand that we have a lot going on in life. It's a crazy world out there. And so I totally accept late work. It is a case by case situation, but I will not accept late work after the end of a unit. So they have up until the end of a unit to get in all their work. Now, I also have a website, and the link can be found in the comments below. But this is a great resource, not just for your student, but for you as well. And so on my website, I have the daily agenda, and I have resources on how to use the certain platforms, all there on my website. Also on my website, I post a daily video that kind of lets students know and let you know what we're going to be doing for that day. So please check that out. It'll be in the comments below. Now, I think it's extremely important that there's an open line of communication between the school, teachers, students, and families. So please feel free to email me with any comments, concerns, questions at lsuska@magnoliapublicschools.org. And also encourage your student to advocate for themselves. They can email me if they have any questions, comments, or concerns as well. I also have tutoring on Mondays from 1:45 to 2:30. But if that doesn't work, I can always work around a time that works best for your students or for you as well. I just want to thank you for spending the time to get to know our science class, and I look forward to a great year. Have a wonderful day, and thank you.